So went down to the creek and gathered what's called green clay deposit that we've got down here. We're going to see if I can make it into something usable. Has some promise, but needs a little refining. Alright, now let's add some water to this and let it start turning into a slurry. I'll let that sit a while and I'll come back to it and mix it up. Alright, Pepper Dog? Alright, we'll mix this up pretty good. Dump some of this off through a screen here. It's probably going to be several buckets of slurry once I get it mixed up. Because I'm going to keep adding water to it as I go and mixing it more, breaking it down more. And it's just going to wind up being bigger and bigger as we go. Pepper. Just a note out of that. And I don't want to get all the sand and grit out of it, but I've got this screen and I'm getting a lot of this stuff out of it. And that's the screen. Amazon claimed it was a 60 grit screen, but it's not. Or 60 mesh. It's probably somewhere about 30 mesh. Maybe a little bit even coarser than that. But that's fine. That works for what I'm doing here. So yeah, we're getting a lot of the gunk out of it. That's little rocks and sand. And the last one has all the biggest chunks of stuff in it. Right, Pepper? So once we got everything sifted out, I've got almost 2 buckets of this clay slurry. We're just going to let that settle overnight. Okay, it's been an hour or so, and this hasn't really settled much, so I'm going to add some white vinegar to it. Vinegar is supposed to function as a, I think the term is flocculant, which means all the little bits of clay will stick to each other and fall down to the bottom when you put vinegar in. It also could break down carbonates if we got any in here, because we have limestone in this area, and limestone is calcium carbonate, so there's a possibility that there's a lot of that in there. Okay, so I am going to let probably let that one sit right there and let it settle overnight. It's been a couple hours again. This is all still the same day I dug this up. This one I'm going to go ahead and dump into a canvas bag, because this one was thicker to start with. I'm going to just see if it'll settle in the canvas bag and dry out, or if we need to let these really settle, and then see what we get out of them. I'm still a little concerned about the vinegar fizzing when I put it in. It means I've got a lot of calcium carbonate, which again, limestone, which could turn into a big problem later when we fire it. But we'll get to see what's going on at least. Worth a try. So yeah, I'm going to dump this one in my canvas bag and leave it to hang while I leave this one settle. And we'll see what we get. Now, this canvas is fairly tightly woven canvas, so it's pretty much almost waterproof, but the water will evaporate out of it and will soak out of it. It's just going to have to hang a while. And for that, I'm just going to tie it in the rafters of the lean-to behind the shop. Just a quick little sheet mend and go hang it up. Well, it has been a couple days, and this has started to settle down some. I've already dumped some water off. It was up about here before. And I'm going to dump some more off, and we're going to keep doing this, every few days until there stops being as much water to dump off and the clay starts to settle. Pepper, really? Okay, so all this is a box I made out of some scrap, 2 2x10s, I think, and some other boards. I could put plaster in the bottom of this and help this dry out a lot faster, but I haven't done that yet because it takes like a week for plaster to dry. But we're just going to throw an old bed sheet over top of it. We're going to dump our clay in there. This is the one bag that I just poured everything into, and it's been hanging outside. So it's starting to get there, but it's frozen. We got a lumpy frozen block of clay in there. That's almost where we want it. And then we're going to dump the rest of this bucket in that I've been dumping the water off of. Cat or dog, watch out. And we just let this all dry out. Okay, it's been, I don't know, a week or so, week or two. This is pretty much dried out enough to be workable. Nice and plastic. I'm going to gather this up, take it over to the house, and leave it to where, see if my nephew can make something out of it.
This is called a spiral wedge, and it is used on larger bits of clay, as opposed to the regular ram's head wedge that is used. It's better for smaller lumps of clay.
Okay.
It creates little folds down at the bottom that slowly pushes everything from the point to the top back through down to the point.
Is it drying out enough to use?
We are going to find out. Plasticity is...
Yeah, you may not have to bring it up and down very much to add plasticity to it.
Cone it. That twist in the bottom, it's spiraled. It was twisting under just being held, so... Might be best to go straight to centering. I also don't promise that this will work. This stuff is really, really soft, so you don't actually have to do the fun coning stage where it goes up and down a couple times. You just go straight to making a disc. When it's all nice and consistent and circular and round, the wheels start spitting off the weird stuff because it was affordable. Yeah. Take your hole. Get her drawn out to a shape.
Basically get your bottom done.
Yeah. I want to make sure I'm getting this centered as well because circles are important. You push down your center bit to a flat, and then you go out to the outside edge of your wall. Make sure that it's at like a right angle with your wall. That way you don't have any weird overhangs or thicker parts next to thinner parts, which can do cracking. Also trying to...
Thermal expansion at different rates.
Yep. I'm also trying to collar these edges, make sure that they're a bit centered. Not every time you push in the middle, it will be perfectly in the middle. It can be a little wonky. I'm trying to avoid it being too wonky. So once you got your inside bit all sorted out, however many years it may take, then you get to start drawing walls. which is really just lifting. All up into one big cone. Check all your thicknesses, make sure you're good. If need be, if there's not enough thickness and not enough height, do it again. The second one a little quicker because I'm not actually hunting for that much more height. And instead, I'm going to switch to a different shaped sponge for my own comfort. Start drawing it out. It just involves a lot more pulling. This whole time you have to make sure that there's water everywhere, otherwise your hand will stick. And if it sticks, it pulls on things. If it pulls on things, things fall apart. It does not work with everything. Legos with wet hands is not a good experience. So I'm just pulling and pushing on the inside, pulling from the outside to get it up into whatever shape I quite want it to be. I went for a very wide bowl here. I'm going to kind of push down on this bottom part, make it a bit more rounded out. Make sure these walls come up nice and level. And it's a fairly wide bowl and a little unlevel.
Yeah, but
that's okay.
It's a native clay bowl. It's not going to be
perfect.
It definitely doesn't need to be.
I'm still going to take some time to try and trim it up nice. Just looking up, using one of the cutting tools to take away a bunch of that wet slip on the surface is beneficial. Hitting with a sponge is always nice. It's important to make sure that you get it really dry so you can actually pick it up off the wheel. If it is still wet, it is going to be very hard to get a grip on it, and you will likely bend it trying to get enough of a hold. Get it nice and dry. Dry off your own hands. Slide under it with one of the garrotes or little bits of wire.
Yeah, I think they actually just call them clay cutters for some reason.
Well, I'm fancy.
I know.
Get a little wobble. Set it up somewhere to dry. It'll usually center itself right back out. So this clay was still really wet, so we spread it out on this hunk of plaster of Paris that has been dried to help soak out some of the moisture. And it's less deformable when I smack it. It isn't as much taking the shape of my fingers. If I actually want to get a dent in it, let me get this grouped back up together. You can even tell that it's wedging better. For me to, it takes a slight dent in my fingerprints, but not as bad as it did before. For me to make any real dent, I have to push fingertip down. That's when it's making marks. So this is a lot better than what we had going before. It's going to be a lot easier to work with. I'll be able to make taller stuff with it. A bit more structure. Good texture. Yeah. So this has been dried overnight, enough to kind of hold its shape better. Just putting some wet clay on the bottom so it'll stick to the wheel. And spinning around and just kind of tapping it until get rid of all that side-to-side wobble. Something similar to that. At this point, you take some kind of flat edge. You forgot to wipe off earlier, so do that now. And use it to slide a little bit of that bottom down, making a nice seal for that slightly wet clay to dry and stick it to the wheel, nice and solid. From there, you can take a tuning tool, just slowly, same as doing it with it while it's wet, holding it on the side. And almost letting it push itself through. Letting it dry actually allows you to push into it and carve away some of these areas a lot better than it's sitting there wet on the wheel. Means you can really control the shape you're getting. I'm going to take that same flat edge as used earlier. It's this one. I know where my stuff is. So we'll scrape it off and just kind of let it smooth everything out. I'm not actually pushing the edge into the surface, I'm pushing the whole side of it. Just to make it run against it and soften out some of that rougher area.
Burnish it a bit.
Burnish it a bit. At that point, it's a lot better looking. So we take a flat little knife and slide it underneath that spot that we stuck to the wheel. So, slides right off. Same process, get it centered. Except this time, we take a couple chunks of clay and then stick it down to the wheel. So I got another chunk of this clay that has not had time to sit and dry properly yet. We're just going to tear it into 3 smallish blocks that we will stop the wheel and put around that lip. The scratching you hear is a little dog who wants a lot of attention that is not being given to her right now. Now, thank you, Icky.
She just sounds like a clogged drain.
Yes, the house's plumbing is fine. Just a dog. Got it kind of stuck down, so we're going to push down on this top middle part and kind of repeat the same process of just slowly trimming. Now this one we're going to keep fairly simple with a little bevel on that outside edge and then kind of draw that middle bit in. Probably putting a little bit of a divot in it just to make it rest on that outside edge a bit more, which can make things a little bit more stable when it's resting on a countertop or something. So I'm pushing in more on that center and then slowly marking my way out. And hey, you've got a nice little divot there. It's actually formed up a little ring because of the way I was pushing. A little smoothing out on that. There's a finished bottom. I am not going to hit this with that same... I'm going to hit this with the same burnishing step because I said it. It's not as important because of the parts that are going to be seen after it's fired. I'm not too worried about the bottom. This is just because now that I've mentioned it, I can't unsee it. So we're taking our little burnisher and going around those edges, making it smooth. And then we're done. No sharp angles, nothing that's gonna get hit by a kiln and crack. And then to remove this, instead of having to slide our knife underneath it, we just peel off those chunks of clay. Make sure to peel away from your pottery so that it doesn't stick. And set that aside for trimming the next one. We've got a nice little jar. This is going to sit and dry for a while longer until it's ready to fire. Here's my little vase.
Well, it turns out that the green gray clay is going to be just a low fire clay because fired at a low fire, I didn't keep the example of it. I put it in again for a higher fire, and for cone 6, it doesn't go up that high. This is what's left of some of it that melted and stuck to another piece that was in the kiln. Yeah, didn't make it. So it only worked for low fire. But there was some brown clay, a tan color, that was on just the next layer up in the same place. And at a low fire, it comes out this kind of rust-colored orange. But then it actually goes to a medium fire, a cone 6, a higher fire. You can see a little bit of that stuff got on the side of it too. But it fired this nice kind of chocolate brown color. So I guess we're going to be going with the tan colored, brown colored clay for future projects.